Welcome back to another episode. Today's book 17.
Book 17 is Adam Grant, Give and Take. Have you read this one before?
I have not.
Gotcha. You're familiar with Adam Grant, though, right? I believe.
Yes.
Awesome. Here's the cover, The Give and Take by Adam Grant. I think this is probably his most famous book, kind of the one that really put him on the map. I think this is his first book, but don't quote me on that one. The reflection title is Begin Each New Relationship with Belief, and I'll tell you why. So just a quick background about the book, Give and Take. It's Adam Grant is a organizational psychologist. So the way that he puts it is he studies ways to make work not suck. He just really looks at like how people interact with each other in a work environment and how they can better it. So he's a professor at the Wharton School of Business at University of Pennsylvania, and he's become pretty much a world-renowned expert these days on workplace psychology and different ways to improve the workplace just in general overall. So this book in particular was a book that he wrote. It's called Give and Take, and it talks about the three different types of ways that we interact with each other. And in the three different ways are being either a giver, a taker, or a matcher. So givers, as it probably self-explanatory, they are giving by default. They don't expect anything in return. They just help each other out. For instance, us doing this today and doing this podcast, reading these books, writing these reflections, sharing it with the world, we're giving to the world. We don't expect anything back from it. We don't care if this becomes a success or not. That's not the intention of it. We're honestly just trying to do this for ourselves and live our values, but at the same time, we want to give to the world. So, this would be one of those kind of giving activities. Takers are, as it's self-explanatory, they are the leeches of the world, right? If there's an opportunity to exploit something, they will definitely exploit it. One of the examples he gives is the old CEO at Enron, Kinley, and how he would never do anything for anybody unless there was something in it for him. And that was the culture that they created at Enron. And obviously we all know the story of Enron, right? And then the third one is matchers. So kind of like a quid pro quo personality. If you give something to me, I'd be happy to give something back to you. Or I expect something if I give something to you to get something in return someday, to balance out the equation. Those are the three types of personalities and how people interact with each other per Adam Grant. And this book was to explain why giving is the best way. And it was a really, really fun book. I had already been a fan, like I said, of Adam Grant. I listened to his Work Life podcast, and it was something I've always really enjoyed. But this was my first real book that I ventured into with him, and I was really glad I did. It was a really good story. One of the things that stood out to me the most that I remember from it was this story of a professor of accounting at the University of North Carolina. And for some weird reason, this professor always had the students with the highest grades across the entire state when they did the CPA certification test or whatever they do. People just didn't understand it. They were like, why does this guy always have the best students ever, kind of thing, it seems like, and have the people that produce the best scores. Adam explored this professor with some of his students and talked to the professor himself. And actually, it was really funny, his explanation. He was like, it's actually pretty simple. He was like, no matter what your walk of life is that you came from, no matter what your background is, no matter what your grades were before you walk into the room and start my course, I 100% have unshakable belief that you can do this and be a great accountant. So every single person he interacts with, he takes that enthusiasm and that energy and that spirit of, I know you can do this. I believe in you. Let's find a way to make you better, And then there's people that wildly over succeed every single year with coming from really diverse backgrounds. And it's all because this professor is willing to give confidence and give belief in these people that they can do it, And when you have somebody that's willing to bestow that faith into you, you feel like you owe it to them. There's so many studies. I know you and I have talked about this. When you believe in somebody, I think there was like a famous study of teachers where they told their class that one of their students was the special class, the other one was the challenge class or whatever it was. The students were the exact same mixture in both classes. Well, the students with the class that was told that they were special, the teachers went into it going, well, these kids are special. So if they make a mistake, then I got to help them through it. And I got to, I believe in them. They're supposed to be good, And then the ones that were the quote unquote, not special students, when they made mistakes, the teacher's like, well, they're just the dumb kids anyway, and they give up hope on them. Right. So that whole entire concept of just believing in people, really spoke to me. And it actually reminded me of my story of my own sales team that I used to manage back when I was at Angie's List. I got promoted from an account executive role into a leadership role, which is always awkward, right? You're in the trenches with these same people, and then all of a sudden one day you're their manager now or something along those lines. Well, I inherited a team full of basically the other managers in the department did a draft lottery of like, I don't care who we get, like, who do you want to get rid of off your team? Who do you want to keep? You know what I mean? It was almost like an auction, draft lot. I didn't get to pick my team, right? Well, the other
Mhm.
managers in the department, they, send their people that they didn't really want to have on their team anymore, that they had lost faith in for the most part. And, that was
Yeah.
how I started my team. That was the new team that I acquired. I remember from the first day, and this is just something that I just do naturally, and this is something that I've always done. But now that
Mhm.
after I read these kind of stories and reinforce it, I can see what I've done. And from day one, I literally told all these people, like, I know what other people think of your past performance and your past history in this part. We're starting from scratch, and I believe in you. And we sat down, we had one-on-ones, and we talked about what your strengths are and how we can exploit that, and how we're, tons of enthusiasm. And I'm going to be here to coach you. I believe in you. And before you knew it, we were one of the best teams in the department. All these like ragtag, kind of bad news Bears team or whatever that I
Mhm.
had quote unquote inherited, all of a sudden was becoming, one of the top teams in the department. And, other managers were like, how is this even possible? For me, as I look back on it, I think it was just because I believed in them, and it was earnest. I
Right.
really did. They lived up to that. My final thought with this is that should be the default that we go through into every interaction and every single person. Even if you get burned a few times, you're going to get burned a few times. But I think you should begin every single relationship with belief. If you do, you're going to be surprised by what people end up producing for you. So yeah, I know it's a little long-winded there, but love to get your thoughts on the reflection, and then the question. What's your default mode of?
Yeah.
I think I know what it is, but I mean,
So
what's your default?
I'm not sure how the reflections is relates to the book itself, but I do tend to think that as far as the book giver, taker, and matcher, I think we all play all those roles at some capacity, and the ratio changes depending on our stages in life. I guess when I was younger, because I don't know a lot, so I'm more of a taker,
Sure. Yeah.
learning from other people. Matcher maybe in some aspects, just because I think that's human nature, and giver is only when I become a little bit more experienced in what I do, whether that's programming, technical stuff, or whatever. And I give freely, just because I think human nature itself lends our habits to this kind of behavior. A lot of times we give something, people always will find ways to give it back, because that's how we are conditioned by our society, our tribe, and millions of years of conditioning. That's why giver, you always get back something in return from someone else, just
Yeah.
because people feel like they owe you something and they want to pay you back. And so I believe that, from the title itself, it's better to be a giver, because giver, you can choose how many you want back. And if you give 10, you're gonna receive about 10 back. If you keep taking, right, that number is not determined by you,
Right.
right?
That's true.
So if you are a giver, you in control. You can give 100,000 and get back many, many, many more. If you take her, well, you take whatever there is available, what's there,
Right.
right? Someone's giving you. So in the relationship, giver, taker, and matcher, we all play that role, and somebody has to give for you to take,
Yeah. So you're saying
right?
like giving's infinite and taking's finite. There's only so much.
Taking, it has to be available for you to take. You
Right.
can't just rip it well from somebody.
Yeah.
So let's say you want me to do something for you. I'm not gonna do it, right? If I already done it and you can take it, yeah, it's available. But
Right.
if I were to say, hey, I'm gonna do something nice for you, you're gonna do something nice for me back. If I do that 10 times, you're gonna do back 10 times. So if I want more, I can control that number, that volume, right?
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on the book itself. The reflection on my thought on your reflection is that I think belief is one of those things that make a big difference. And I think the reason why it's not just your belief in them, is their belief in themselves. Because if you tell somebody, for example, if you believe in them, but you don't tell them, do you think it's going to turn out like the way you expect it?
No.
Right. So when you tell them, they actually believe in it, they believe in your belief. So you are the catalyst. You ignite that belief in themselves.
Right.
And then because they saw your belief and they say, well, I believed I can do it too. I believe that he's right. Then that works because they try to live up to it. But if for example, if you believe in me, but I deny it, I say, no, I'm not that good. I can't do it. Then I won't do it. I won't be
Right.
good because so the thing is, I think for the core takeaway is that that person that you believe in must believe it too. They have to believe in themselves for them to make that happen. And
Yep.
so I guess, it's I agree with that reflection, meaning that you want to start a relationship with a belief and you believe they can do something. And if you do that, that actually becomes the tinder to create that fire.
Right. It's the thoughts become things principle, right? We all like to mirror each other. So, if somebody's showing confidence in you, you're going to reflect confidence back.
That's to me that's the thing I want to clarify is yes, it's play a part, but that's that core idea for this to work is they have to believe. So if you are a good teacher, a good professor, you're going to find ways to help them believe. Because if the professor was teaching accounting, right? And the student comes in and he doesn't believe, the professor can believe all he wants. That student is not going to score high on a CPA exam. Only until the professor find ways to make that guy believe it as well. Then he would have the confidence and the motivations to continue. So every relationship, we have to make sure that they have a vision to look forward to. So I think in one of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, there's a story that was told about the guy going working for the railroad. Two guys went to the railroad to get to work at the same time. But like 20 years later, one become the president of the railroad and the other one is still a worker. So what's the difference between the two? So you ask them, what did you do? The one guy would say, I'm going to work for the railroad. The other guy said, I want to work for $10 an hour or whatever the case. Like dollar. Back then it was $1. So something is, if you ask a guy, bricklayers, right? You say, what are you doing? One guy say, I'm building a wall, right? And another guy, you ask him, what are you doing? He does the same thing. You ask him what he's doing. I'm building a castle. So which guy believe is better and which guy will go further?
100%. Thoughts become things.
So the guy who has the belief of, I want to build a castle, there's much more to it. He's going to say, well, because a castle, what I need for the castle, it need to be strong, it needs to be quality, it needs to be sturdy. So he put a lot of effort into building that brick, laying that brick.
Right.
But if you're building a wall for a fence, well, it's not that big of a deal. So you're not going to put that much effort into making it like the right way. So that's the perspective, two different perspectives. So when you really start a relationship with somebody, you give them that like high rise visions of whatever that
you have a purpose. You have you're building a castle and I want to help you to get there. We're just going to go close some deals and get paid some money and go home. It's really funny you mentioned that because I feel like the business world does the exact opposite. They coach managers and leaders to see things differently. In my experience, they always say, invest your time into your top producers. And if they suck, then they suck. Just let them suck and get them out of there. Either build them up or build them out, or run. What's the saying? Either move them up or move them out. Right. Like, why do I need to look at the guy at the end of my bench and go, you suck, I'm done with you. Like, why not invest the time into them to see if they could be great? I saw this all over I see this every single day. Hell, even my own boss now, we were just trying to close up a key deal a couple of weeks ago at the end of our fiscal year. She told me as we were going into some very serious negotiations with this company on a pretty large deal, we just kept offering concession after concession. And I was like, stop doing this. As a team, we were offering that back to these people and they were just dictating to us the terms of the play. But I was like, why are we just turning to this immediately? Like, I mean, there's other ways that we could go about this. And she shared with me, she goes, in full transparency, I had this forecasted for kind of where we're at right now, all along. Like, I didn't ever think it was going to be, $100,000 more like we had originally proposed to these people. And I'm like, well, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. It's like if you always constantly go into it going, well, this is really, I'm anchored on this number, you know, and this is all that your employee can be, you know, like
Then
they
they
can
will
only
be
ever be
that's all they can, and they're not gonna be
exactly,
more than
yeah.
that, right? So
And we don't give our attention, we don't give them time, we don't give them our belief, we don't give them our
yeah, give
knowledge,
them something
help,
to
you know.
believe
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
boils down to my final reflection is when you meet somebody, give them something to believe in, something great. When they, like my computer background said, do what is great,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah,
And so you give them something to believe in. And if you do that, they might make it,
exactly.
right?
I'm gonna believe in with Clubany, and we're gonna build the most amazing tribe of purpose-driven human beings in this a beautiful work and life ecosystem where you can be yourself, but at the same time still achieve the goals you want to achieve in your personal
Mm,
life. But at the same time, be around a community of other people that are also, you know, purpose-driven, like-minded people that you can help collaborate and grow meaningful relationships with as well, and feel safety and secure, and make it a best of both worlds. Instead of having to be a freelancer or working at a company, you can do both. And we're gonna give the belief that we can do this. You know, I don't know
yes.
how, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna find a way, and it'll be great. So yeah, join the ride whenever you're ready.
So I think that should wrap it up for today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. And the question to consider is, what's your default mode when you first begin a relationship? Are you automatically that giver and wanting to give the time, or are you a matcher? You know, if they're going to put in the work, then you'll put in the work with them. It's something to
Yeah.
think through. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next tomorrow.
Yes. All
All
right.
right. Sounds good.